So we're going to go over the two worksheets that I assigned dealing with the road to Civil War. So the first one will be the 15.2 Reteaching worksheet that some of you struggled with concerning cause and effect. So let's take a look at it here. So let's do the first one. The Fugitive Slave Act is strictly enforced. And so the answer that I wanted you to put down there would be letter F. Now, remember, this Fugitive Slave Act was part of a larger compromise dealing with, of course, the Compromise of 1850. But the answer would be letter F. More people in the North are convinced of the evils of slavery. Now, I know that some of these are really close in the cause and effect part. Number 2, it says Harriet Beecher Stowe writes Uncle Tom's Cabin, a novel that illustrates the brutality of slavery. And so what I wanted there was letter H, public's feeling. The public feeling about slavery is now affected, meaning people who did not care. Harriet Beecher Stowe here was able to make people care simply through a fictional novel about a topic that many people felt they didn't care about, and they came to care about it. And number 3, in 1854, Senator Stephen Douglas proposed a bill to organize the territories of Kansas and Nebraska. That would be letter D. And so what would happen here is good old little giant Stephen Douglas creates the ideas of that. So number 4, Kansas and Nebraska lie north of the 3630 latitude and are likely to enter the Union as free states. So the answer you should have there would be G. Douglas proposes a repeal of the Missouri Compromise along with the new idea of popular sovereignty. So as we move on, I just want to show you that map again of the new creation of the Kansas and Nebraska territories, talking about those ideas of popular sovereignty. Gone is that line of the Missouri Compromise at 3630 that said that nothing north of it could have slave territories. Now the possibility opens up with the creation of popular sovereignty. So moving on to number 5, Southerners, some Northern Democrats, President Pierce, support the repeal of the Missouri Compromise. That would be A, with the creation of the Kansas and Nebraska Act. Number 6, pro-slavery legislature in Kansas passes laws supporting slavery. Well, the opposite of that would be, well, then this other side, anti-slavery. So it would be people hold their own elections and adopt a constitution banning slavery. So you begin to have rival governments in the same area. Number 7, dealing with that, violence erupts first in Lawrence, Kansas. Okay, if you look down here closely, you see Lawrence. And then Pottawatomie Creek. Okay, you can sort of see that down here. So the answer for that would be letter E. Newspapers begin to refer to it as Bleeding Kansas. And the last one left is letter B. Abolitionist Senator Charles Sumner delivers a speech entitled The Crimes Against Kansas. The level of hostility between North and South is revealed when Preston Brooks attacks the Massachusetts senator. So here is just a picture from a newspaper. It's actually back in 1863. That talks about the violence that's still going on in Kansas at the time. But we'll get here to letter B. So you can take a look there, make sure that your answers are correct, and we'll move on to the last part with 15.3 Reteaching. And that last part would have been also including this picture that we have discussed before about this would be Charles Sumner and this would be Preston Brooks. So let's move on to this one where you were supposed to write the letter that goes with the person. So let's start off with Lincoln first. And so in Lincoln, we should have these letters. So let's go through them one at a time. So first of all, letter B, he believed that slavery was morally wrong, but the idea of what he could do as a candidate and then as a public servant was a little different. So he said, if slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. The second one would be letter F. And letter F says born in Kentucky, so hopefully you can understand where Kentucky is in the country. And then we're moving on to the letter H, relatively unknown in political circles. So much that if you look down here, they misspelled his name. And then last but not least, letter E, he is the Republican candidate. Only the second Republican ever to run for office for president. The first one was 1856. So we'll stop there and then we'll move to the last parts. So Stephen Douglas, here we go. Good old Stephen Douglas, there he is. So let's do the first one. He is the little giant. So the idea is he's 5'4", Lincoln 6'4". There was political cartoons of him here being a little guy but a giant of a man as far as his influence. The next one could be letter C. He is the opposite. He's a Democrat. More specifically, he's going to be a Northern Democrat. And then letter D, he is the idea that comes up with popular sovereignty, as we've seen before. And then the last one would be letter G. Letter G. So that is where we are now. So basically, if we look down here at these short essay questions that you're supposed to respond to, how does the Supreme Court's decision in the Dred Scott case affect the Missouri Compromise? Well, pretty much what you read and what we discussed is the courts struck down the compromise as actually being a abuse of power by Congress, meaning it was unconstitutional. The Congress did not have the power to actually create the line that forbid it. The second one, the political groups that joined to form the Republican Party in 1854, well, there's groups like Free Soilers, there's anti-Whig or anti-slavery Whigs, anti-slavery Democrats, and so those are the groups that kind of come together. And last but not least, the main message of the Republican Party is to stop the spread of slavery into the territories. So that's where we are with these worksheets.